One of the children recounted how she took the blood of her dead friend lying near her and smeared herself with that blood to pretend to be dead. What have we taught our children? This is on our watch. Where is the outrage? I will tell my friends on the other side of the aisle who, for some reason, stand against these common sense measures that would save lives, not all lives, but would save lives, you're way behind the curve. Gun owners, Americans, by and large, want these measures. I don't know what bubble you're living in, I guess surrounded by a powerful gun lobby trying to hold on to your seats. But America is way ahead of you. The outrage is real. We didn't learn it after Columbine. We didn't learn it after Sandy Hook. Please, God, let us stop the shame on our country, pass these laws, say that an 18-year-old cannot go in and slaughter our children or black people because...
Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Well, nice seeing you all, and I hope everybody's having a good week here. I want to jump right into something good here that's being reported in the New York Times, and it's written by Gina Kolata, published today, entitled "A Cancer Trial's Unexpected Result, Remission in Every Patient." It was a small trial, just 18 rectal cancer patients, every one of whom took the same drug. But the results were astonishing. The cancer vanished in every single patient, undetectable by physical exam, endoscopy, positron emission tomography, or PET scans, or MRI scans. Dr. Louis A. Diaz Jr. of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, an author of a paper published Sunday in the New England Journal of Medicine, described the results, which were sponsored by drug company GlaxoSmithKline. Said he knew of no other study in which a treatment completely obliterated a cancer in every patient. Quote, "I believe this is the first time this has happened in the history of cancer," unquote, Diaz said. Dr. Alan P. Vinook, a colorectal cancer specialist at the University of California, San Francisco, who was not involved with the study, said he also thought this was a first. "A complete remission in every single patient is, quote, unquote, unheard of," he said. These rectal cancer patients had faced grueling treatments, chemotherapy, radiation, and most likely life-altering surgery that could result in bowel, urinary, and sexual dysfunction. Some would need colostomy bags. They entered the study thinking that when it was over, they would have to undergo those procedures because no one really expected their tumors to disappear. But they got a surprise. No further treatment was necessary. Quote, "There were a lot of happy tears," unquote, said Dr. Andrea Siric, oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and co-author of the paper, which was presented Sunday at the annual meeting of the American Society of Clinical Oncology. Another surprise, Vinook added, was that none of those patients had clinically significant complications. On average, 1 in 5 patients have some sort of adverse reaction to drugs, like the one the patients took, Dostolim, known as checkpoint inhibitors. The medication was given every 3 weeks for 6 months and cost about $11,000 per dose. It unmasks cancer cells, allowing the immune system to identify and destroy them. While most adverse reactions are easily managed, as many as 3 to 5% of patients who take checkpoint inhibitors have more severe complications that, in some cases, result in muscle weakness and difficulty swallowing and chewing. The absence of significant side effects, Vinook said, means that, quote, either they did not treat enough patients or somehow these cancers are just plain different, unquote. In an editorial accompanying the paper, Dr. Hannah K. Sanoff of the University of North Carolina's Lindbergh Comprehensive Cancer Center, who was not involved in the study, called it, quote, small but compelling, unquote, she added, though that it is not clear if the patients are cured. Quote, very little is known about the duration of time needed to find out whether a clinical complete response to dostarlimab equates to cure, unquote, Sanoff said in the editorial. Dr. Kimi Ng, a colorectal cancer expert at Harvard Medical School, said that while the results were quote-unquote remarkable and unprecedented, they would need to be replicated. The inspiration for the rectal cancer study came from a clinical trial Diaz led in 2017 that Merck, the drug maker, funded. It involved 86 people with metastatic cancer that originated in various parts of their bodies, but the cancers all shared a gene mutation that prevented cells from repairing damage to DNA. These mutations occur in 4% of all cancer patients. Patients in that trial took a Merck checkpoint inhibitor, enbrolzumab, for up to 2 years. Tumors shrank or stabilized in about 1/3 to 1/2 of the patients, and they lived longer. Tumors vanished in 10% of the trial's participants. That led Sursic and Diaz to ask what would happen if the drug were used much earlier in the course of disease before the cancer had a chance to spread. They settled on a study of patients with locally advanced rectal cancer, tumors that had spread in the rectum and sometimes to lymph nodes but not to other organs. Sursic had noticed that chemotherapy was not helping a portion of patients who had the same mutations that affected the patients in 2017 trial. Instead of shrinking during treatment, their rectal tumors grew. Perhaps Sursic and Diaz reasoned immunotherapy with a checkpoint inhibitor would allow such patients to avoid chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Diaz began asking companies that made checkpoint inhibitors if they would sponsor a small trial. They turned him down, saying the trial was too risky. He and Sursic wanted to give the drug to patients who would be cured with standard treatments. What the researchers were proposing might end up allowing the cancers to grow beyond the point at which they could be cured. Quote, it is very hard to alter the standard of care, unquote, Diaz said. Quote, the whole standard of care machinery wants to do the surgery, unquote. Finally, a small biotechnology firm, Tesaro, agreed to sponsor the study. Tesaro was brought by GlaxoSmithKline, and Diaz said he had to remind the larger company that they were doing the study. Company executives had all but forgotten about the small trial. Their first patient was Satya Roth, then 38. She first noticed some rectal bleeding in 2019, but otherwise felt fine. She is a runner and helps manage a family furniture store in Bethesda, Maryland. During a sigmoid endoscopy, he recalled her gastroenterologist said, quote, oh no, I was not expecting this, unquote. The next day, the doctor called Roth. He had had the tumor biopsied. Quote, it's definitely cancer, unquote, he told her. Quote, I completely melted down, unquote, she said. Soon, she was scheduled to start chemotherapy at Georgetown University, but a friend had insisted she first see Dr. Philip Patty at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Patty told her he was almost certain her cancer included the mutation that made it unlikely to respond well to chemotherapy. It turned out, though, that Roth was eligible to enter the clinical trial. If she had started chemotherapy, she would not have been. Not expecting a complete response to dostarlimab, Roth had planned to move to New York for radiation, chemotherapy, and possibly surgery after the trial ended. To preserve her fertility after the expected radiation treatment, she had her ovaries removed but put back under her ribs. After the trial, Sursat gave her the news. Quote, "We looked at your scans," unquote, she said. Quote, "There is absolutely no cancer," unquote. She did not need any further treatment. Quote, "I told my family," unquote, Roth said. Quote, "They didn't believe me," unquote. But 2 years later, she still does not have a trace of cancer. End of story. They've been sitting on this nugget here for 2 years. You know, not saying anything to the public about it, I guess. And I'm thinking like, well, you know, why? I mean, after a few months and things were the same, I mean, I think I would have said something to somebody about, you know, maybe we ought to think about getting some more people together and try it some more and see what happens again. You know, I don't know, but I mean, that's certainly a good sign, and maybe, you know, what do you call it, like a new pathway to possibly, you know, fighting cancer, you know, on different kinds of cancer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that this is, you know, it's a big. I thought it was big news actually. You know, seeing how my mother died from cancer, but you know, I think that this ought to give people some hope that, you know, the fight goes on. People haven't stopped doing their work, and it takes time. You know, and it you know, kind of like what I was saying about COVID is another problem that will take time for us to deal with. We'll have treatments for it and things like that, but you know, there's no cure, okay? And until there is, people need to stay up to date on the treatments there are for it. But this is interesting here, how this trial had eliminated, well, not eliminated, just put it in remission, I guess. You know, so I don't know. I just thought that was, you know, a huge thing there to read to you all if you haven't heard about this yet. So that's that. Okay, so there's other story here about Kyle Rittenhouse here, in case you haven't heard this one yet. And to refresh your memory on who Rittenhouse is, he's the person who drove 20 miles with a rifle, claiming that he was going to protect some property during a protest of the shooting of Jacob Blake. And he shot Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz. And he said it was he argued that it was in self-defense, and he was acquitted last November of five felony charges, including reckless homicide and intentional homicide. It was pretty controversial. I mean, I remember everybody was, because remember how the judge was acting like a friggin' lunatic and everything, and he seemed to be favoring Kyle even before the trial was even started. I mean, anyway, Kyle made a podcast claiming that he was going to be going to attend Texas A&M University. And he even had one of their hats on while he was sitting here. He was on the Charlie Kirk show. I don't know if any of you know what that is. That's a conservative podcast that comes on there. So he was on that, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to Texas A&M University." And he was all excited. Colin said it was a beautiful campus, amazing people, great food, you know. And somehow somebody was watching that at the university, and an official from the university said, he's not coming here. They said he hasn't admitted as a student for this summer or the fall. So they're like, what's he talking about? you know, so you got his version of what's going to happen, and now the university is saying this guy's never been admitted here. He's not going to come to school here. So that opens up a new little window in this guy's persona here, Kyle Rittenhouse, which probably some people already knew that was there. That, he's a big bald-faced liar. Okay, he got up there on a podcast and told everybody that was watching, I'm going to Texas University. And the university says, no, he's not. He's not coming here. He's not been admitted here. And not only does he tell that lie, but he dresses the thing up and he talks like he's been there, and everything. And he's like, so, here's this guy. I mean, so if he's so easy to lie, I mean, how many times did he lie while he was up on the stand during that trial? Okay, how many times did he lie in front of that judge who bought his story hook, line, and sinker? How many times did he do that? So he was like, everybody's like thinking, he's not going to be able to do anything after the shooting and all that. And I think Kyle is on this path of trying to convince people that nothing that happened, in the trial last year is going to inhibit him in doing a damn thing that he wants. Okay, and so he's probably going around on a quest here to try to convince people that, I'm going to this school, I'm going to do this and that, and it's all a big friggin' fiction is all it is. He's not going anywhere. And what better place to go and tell your fiction than on a conservative podcast? Okay, because it seems to me like they were the ones that, the Republicans are really the ones who were supporting him by and large during the trial. They were arguing, for him in defense of him, and so he's going to be welcomed, on something, on a conservative show, and thus that's what happened. And so here he is out there running his mouth, and already before the echo died, the friggin' university is already out there, saying, no, nothing he said was actually true. He's not coming here. He's not even applied to come here. Okay, so, forget it. Whatever he told you guys, it wasn't even true. God. And here's another story, since we are on the topic of, this last couple of weeks about scaredy cat cops. Another incident had come up in Arizona where a guy, let me see how it goes. A man drowned in an Arizona lake, and this happened last month, and he pleaded for help while he was struggling in the water, and the local cops were standing by and refused to rescue him, and a police body camera took footage of it, and they have the footage on this page here that I'm looking at. Sean Bickings, he was 34 years old, was saying, I'm drowning, and told the Temp Police Department officers during the May 28th incident at Temp Town Lake. The officer hollered back to Bickings saying, quote, okay, I'm not jumping in after you, unquote, moments after the cop instructed Bickings to head over to a pylon. And Bickings was still pleading, please, help, please, like, I can't touch, oh God, please help me. Bickings, whom city officials described as an unsheltered Temp community member, he ultimately drowned after he jumped into the lake but wasn't able to swim. My question is why did he jump in the lake if he couldn't swim? What was he doing? Anyway, the police referred Insider, which is where the article was written from here, to the city when asked for their response to the incident. In a statement, Temp City Manager Andrew Ching and Police Chief Jeff Glover called Bicking's death a tragedy. Well, sure, it's a tragedy. And the body camera footage that was released by the city shows what led up to the moments before Bickings jumped into the water. The cops were called to the scene just after 5 in the morning on May 28th about a reported dispute between Bickings and a woman who identified herself to cops as his wife. When the cops arrived, they spoke to Bickings and the woman, who officials had said cooperated with the police and denied that any physical confrontation had occurred. Quote, "He did nothing wrong. We have a bad habit of interrupting each other sometimes," unquote. That's what she told the cops, and that's verified by the body cam. Officials say that Bickings climbed over a 4-foot metal fence and jumped into the water as cops were running the couple's names through a database to check on any outstanding arrest warrants as part of their standard procedure. Quote, "Neither were being detained for any offense," unquote, the city said of the couple. Seconds before Bickings jumped into the water, he said to the officers, quote, "I'm gonna go for a swim. I'm free to go, right?" unquote. The body camera showed what he said there. The officers told Bickings that he was not allowed to swim in the lake. Quote, "How far do you think he's going to be able to swim?" unquote, one officer asked. The footage showed. Shortly after, an officer could be heard radioing that the quote unquote subject had jumped into the lake. The actual drowning was not included in the footage released by police, and instead a disclaimer was shown on the video before it ended. Quote, "Due to the sensitive nature of the remaining portion of the recording, a transcript of the sensitive portion of the event is being provided for full transparency," unquote. Full transparency. They decide they're going to cut the video off and go to paper after that. That's full transparency, right? So we're not going to actually see what happened after the guy jumped into the water, okay? Because there could be something incriminating in there to the cops, who, basically, it might look worse if they saw the video of it than what they ultimately had was transcripted. I'm gonna drown, Bickings kept saying. During the ordeal, police and Bickings' apparent wife argued, with her saying at one point, quote, "I'm just distraught because he's drowning right in front of you and you won't help," unquote, according to the transcript. Earlier in the transcript, a cop said to the woman, quote, "If you want to help your husband, then talk to your husband. Talk to your husband into coming over," unquote. At one point, 2 different officers said that another officer is, quote, "going to get the boat," unquote, the transcript says. According to the city, Bickings, quote, "swam about 30 to 40 yards before repeatedly indicating he was in distress. He soon went under and did not resurface," unquote. The 3 police officers who didn't step in to save the drowning man were put on paid leave as the Arizona Department of Public Safety and Scottsdale Police investigate the officers' actions, the city said in a statement Friday last week. Paid leave, that's big punishment. They're just can't go to work, but we'll pay you anyway. So it's a very odd incident here. I mean, what the hell was going on? That these guys, I mean, they couldn't throw a rope down to the fucking guy or something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell? They didn't want to get their feet wet or some goddamn thing. It's like, I said it in a previous video. If you're going to be a cop, okay, there's going to come a time when you're going to get that call. And if you're not confident enough to be able to perform your duty as a cop, then you shouldn't be a cop, okay? Because you're going to be looked at as being a coward, and, people are never going to trust you with their lives. They're never going to trust you for a jack shit. I mean, it's just, when people are looking for you to help, they're going to need your help, and that means sometimes you're going to have to put yourself in harm's way. But in this case, these guys here, it's not like they were asked to be put in front of machine gun fire. They were being asked to go get a guy out of the water. I mean, Christ, what are the odds that something like that? What are these 2 cops couldn't swim either? You know, what the hell? So, you know, I guess the media these days is looking around for stories where cops aren't doing their job because they're too afraid to, I guess. And, you know, we find another incident here in Arizona where this has happened. You know, first we have those 150 cops, something like that, at the school shooting that waited an hour before going in there to get the shooter. Meanwhile, the parents were screaming their heads off to go in there and get their kids, save their kids, and they're like, "No, stay back, stay back." You know, none of them did a damn thing about that. Okay, and so they're being labeled as cowards. And now we got more cowards in Arizona, where a guy jumps into the water and he can't swim, and these guys are going to sit there and applaud, you know, clap and applaud that the guy can't swim, and he's not, you know, they're not going to do a damn thing to rescue him. Instead, they ask his wife or whoever she was, "Well, you go and get him." It's like, well, what the hell was the point, you know, for the cops being there if they just weren't going to do anything? Why don't they just get back in their car and drive away? That's the same damn thing that they had done here, is that they just basically stayed in their car and just drove on by, okay? And yet they're going to get paid leave while they don't have to work, while they investigate this. And you and I both know how that investigation is going to go. First, they're already trying to cover this thing up by cutting the video footage from the body cam, so that way people don't actually see the moment here where the guy's struggling to survive in the water, and these guys are just, you know, fucking around and not doing a damn thing. Okay, they don't want people to see that. It's a dispassionate view when you read a transcript. You don't hear the emotion behind it. I mean, imagine the shooting in the school last week or whatever, and it was all in a transcript instead of being seen on a video. How much reaction do you think that would have got from the public? You know, that's right. So that's why they cut that video and they went to a transcript. So obviously, they're trying to protect the cops right off the bat. Okay, they'll probably get an ass chewing, but in the end, they're gonna clear them. You know, I don't see any justice coming out of that. And because the guy, apparently, I think what they said, he was homeless or something like that. They're not gonna waste two cops on a homeless guy who jumped in water when he couldn't swim. Okay, they're not gonna punish these two cops for that. But these two cops' names ought to be remembered to the people in that area, that, you know, if you call for help and they come, tell them to turn around and go back. You don't want them, okay? Because they can't be trusted to do their job. Obviously, they think it's a big fucking joke, and they don't want to do a damn thing to help anybody. If it means getting themselves soaking wet, or putting them in front of bullets, or whatever the hell you want to say, you know. But the fact is they can't be counted on. So why don't they just give these guys desk duty at the police station, okay? And put people who probably are working at a desk, a job where they have the courage to do their job, you know. Let's have a commercial break.
Dear CEO, what's it gonna take for you to do something? Yeah, do you even care?
Climate change affects all of us.
This is your chance to do something good.
Superman movie is brought to you by Canon, the world's leading camera manufacturer.
Quick, it's happy.
Canavision 8 camcorders.
Hey, I thought you were Superman, huh?
Hey, I am.
If it moves, shoot it with a cannon.
If I'm beaten and raped in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my rapist. If I am raped by my father, brother, or uncle and get pregnant in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my family abuser. This new law is so draconian that I can be prosecuted for having an abortion, and so can my doctors, friends, and family who advise me, or even the Uber driver who simply drives me to the clinic. This is madness. The same people who have been protesting and screaming, "My body, my choice," when it comes to the COVID vaccine, are now saying I don't have any control over my own body. Texas Republicans won't require a 12-year-old girl to wear a mask in school that may save her life and the lives of other children, but they will force her to keep a baby regardless of how she got pregnant, including rape and incest. I am a woman, and I have a constitutional right to make decisions for my own body. I am a woman, and I have a human right to refuse to give birth to my rapist's baby. I am a woman. This is my body. I am a woman. This is the United States of America. I am a woman. You do not own or control my mind or my body. Shame on the men and women who passed this law, and shame on anyone who sits in silence while women suffer and die because of it.
Want to build a super day? Then start with the one great taste that makes a super bowl of cereal. Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Just think of crispy golden flakes.
Delicious, crunchy flakes of corn.
So pure and simple, just can't wait.
Low in sugar, loaded with vitamins and iron.
So good for you, don't hesitate.
For a super bowl of our most nutritious corn flakes ever.
What a super bowl. Have yourself a super bowl. Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Super taste, super good. Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I love the show.
I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay, so do you remember there was this couple here from last year. Let me see if I can't. There was a couple, and there were people protesting around their yard, I guess, somewhere. I mean, where they live in St. Louis, I guess. Yeah, it was their house in St. Louis, and this was in June 28th of 2020, rather. And I guess they got pissed at the noise, and they went out to confront the protesters, and a guy brought out a fucking automatic rifle, and his wife brought out a pistol. And they were threatening the protesters to get the hell away from their house, okay? But they weren't doing anything to their house, okay? And it was a Black Lives Matter protest, okay? And they were there because, let me see, let's see. I'm trying to figure out why they were there. Well, it doesn't say specifically, but you know, it was a Black Lives Matter march that they felt was putting them in danger, okay? And Donald Trump at the time had supported these people, the McCloskeys. That's what their last name was, the McCloskeys. He supported them for what they did, which is totally outrageous. Okay, I mean, how do you support somebody coming running out of their house with a AR-15 type looking rifle and the wife holding a pistol at the mob outside protesting? You know, how do you say, oh, that's okay? That goes to show you the kind of mentality that Trump had. Okay, but anyway, they went to the Supreme Court, the McCloskeys, to have their appeal heard. Okay, and the Supreme Court declined to listen to them. Okay, and it says here the Supreme Court on Monday rejected a petition from Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the couple who pointed guns at Black Lives Matter protesters outside their St. Louis home. They declined to hear the McCloskeys' appeal as they attempted to end a probationary period tied to a suspension of their law licenses instituted by the Missouri Supreme Court in February. The McCloskeys, who are white, were photographed pointing guns at racial justice protesters marching past their palatial suburban home in late June 2020. While the state's chief disciplinary council had pushed for a suspension of their licenses, the state Supreme Court instead instituted a one-year probation, meaning they are allowed to practice law, but are required to provide 100 hours of pro bono legal services and report any other criminal charges or job changes. They must complete the probation to avoid having their law licenses suspended. They pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault and harassment charges and turned in their guns on June last year. Their defense attorney successfully pushed to remove a prosecutor seeking felonies for unlawful use of a weapon and evidence tampering. Shortly thereafter, they purchased a new AR-15 style gun and were pardoned by Missouri Governor Mike Parson, a Republican. Jesus Christ. Quote, as many of you know, Patty and I face political prosecution for having the audacity to defend our lives and property from an angry mob, unquote. Mark McCloskey wrote in an August 2021 statement, quote, today we are incredibly thankful that Governor Mike Parson righted this wrong and granted us pardons, unquote. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that, the Republicans would come out and support, as Trump did, and the governor, okay? But, let's get to the truth here. What pissed these people off wasn't the fact that there were people protesting. They're lawyers, right? They know about the fucking law. They know about people's rights. The fact was there was a lot of black people out there around their house, and they felt intimidated by it, and their first reaction was to get the gun. Nobody was jumping the fence. Nobody was getting into their yard. Okay, they were marching around their property as it was because they had a fence around it. Nobody was doing a goddamn thing to them, but they felt like they had to come out there and make a show of force because they were scared shitless. That's what was going on there. That's what that was all about. And so the fact that they're trying to pretend like all what they did was justified and a protected action just hides or covers over the real intent behind why they come storming out of the house that day with their guns. And I just think that, it's sad that, we live in a country now where behavior like that can be pardoned. It's like, why the hell do we even bother having laws on regulating weapons and stuff like that in this country if we're going to have politicians who are going to run interference against justice and say, no, you can't touch this person, you can't touch that person because what they did was protected under the law. Really? I mean, if these two people weren't lawyers, if they were just average citizens that came out of their house and basically, you know, wave their gun around and, you know, get the hell away from my house. Do you think they had got just a slap on the wrist or a pardon from the governor? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that would have happened. Yeah, they could say that, you know, if it was black people that came out of their house and was waving a gun, trying to scare off a bunch of protesters, you know, white people or something like that at a protest, you know, I doubt that the wheels of justice would have stopped, you know, on that. They would have ran roughshod over the person. Okay, so, you know, like somebody had said before, you know, on a show, there's many different types of justice in this country. There isn't no justice for all. There's only A justice for this group of people, B justice for this group of people, C justice for this group. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of country we live in, where depending on what you are, who you are, you'll fit into one of these slots here for justice, okay? And if you're wealthy or something like that, you have a good chance of getting away with bull-faced murder, okay? You just get the right dream team in front of you there, and they'll get you off of murder. If you're a poor person, you better make your will out, okay? Have your affairs in order. And if you're lucky, you might just spend life in prison, okay? But, you know, that's what you get in this country now. Depending on who you are, that's the justice you get. It's not equal, it's not fair, okay? So whoever ever, you know, if they were taught in school that justice is equal under the eyes of the law, it's not so, okay? It just isn't so. We don't live then in that kind of a country. I don't know if we ever did, to be honest. I really don't know if we ever did, because you could think of a lot of injustices that happened as far back, you know, as the early 20th century, and even further than that. I mean, I think it's always been that way, because we seem to have a need to want to get around breaking the law as people. We want to be able to do heinous things and not get punished for it. So as long as people have that need to get away with things like that, there's always going to be unfair justice in the land, such as it is. Okay, so after we had that terrible mass shooting at the school in Texas last week, this story had come out from WAGA entitled AR-15 sales triple at Metro Atlanta gun store. Triple! Okay, this is like when the Republicans try to ban a book, and all of a sudden that book they're trying to ban just gets a boost in sales through the roof at, you know, Borders or BAM. Okay, it's not a very long article, just 2 sentences. You know, what more needs to be said, right? But yeah, that's what it says, is that the sales of those guns here in that state have gone through the fucking roof. Everybody's afraid that laws are going to be passed where somebody's going to come and take away their gun. And I'd like to ask these friggin' people, what laws do you think are going to get passed? Because how many mass shootings have we have lived through in this country in the last 20 years? And in the last 20 years, we haven't had much movement done at all about going and taking away people's guns. We had an assault weapons ban that lasted until George W. got in there, okay, and he just let the frickin' thing run out so it would just disappear, okay? So, what do they think is going to happen? That we haven't tried and it hasn't succeeded, okay? This fear that the NRA puts out there, that, oh, you know, the Democrats are going to take, it's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. And I can't, and I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but people in America are, after 20 years, have not only grown up with that kind of reality, but they're used to it now. The time to end these mass shootings was before, when it just started, where we never had them before, and we noticed a rise. That was the moment in time where we had to get in there and with a vengeance and put a stop to that right then and there. Not wait 20 fucking years where you got a whole generation of people growing up in that and now it's like second nature. Okay, they don't see the imperative because they don't remember a time where there wasn't mass shootings in this country. So how are they to know how things are to go back to? You know what I'm saying? How are they going to find appealing the world that we used to live in, where you never saw this stuff happening all the time? They don't know that. So it's like a piece of history. It's like me trying to think about the Civil War. It's just there's nothing to put your nostalgia to, because you didn't live those years, so you don't understand what that was like. But a lot of these kids that are now 25 or something, they went through school and they had to learn how to take active shooter drills. Okay, they had to do that, and while they were doing that, the rest of us kind of, we lamented about it, but then we just learned to live with it. We let ourselves get used to it. And that's why I'm saying we're never actually ever going to see anything done about this problem in our country until somebody very important, or a lot of very important people, are victims of such a thing, and that might spark a movement, like, say, a mass killing of political individuals or something like that, especially people on the right wing, when something like that happens, because if it's nobody important, they're going to be treated as unimportant. They'll come out and they'll say their prayers and their thoughts and all that shit, okay, like every other damn time there's a mass killing. And you'll have your president getting angry and bitching that, oh, you need to do something and do it now. You'll have all that talk, and then it'll get quiet and then just disappear till another big shooting happens. But until somebody really important that matters to a lot of people, okay, a high-profile individual gets killed in this country, maybe somebody from another country coming over here, like maybe the Queen of England comes to America and she's involved in a mass killing. You know what I'm saying? If somebody from another country comes over here, a leader from another country comes over here, and they're bystanders in a mass killing, and they get shot and killed, that's really the only thing I can think of at this point that really would open up a good chance that maybe this country would actually put aside its bullshit and do what's right. Okay, I really think that would be, because the other country would be pushing the United States to change its ways. Okay, and really that's I think outside pressure on America is really the last avenue to take. I think the rest of the world needs to start putting sanctions on us. You know what I'm saying? Trying to force us to stop allowing these things to go on. I mean, you hear all the time on British news about how insane it is over here in this country, that we Americans seem to just revel in this crap, and the people they talk to express their outrage to are pro-gun nuts. So they're hearing that side and only that side of the argument, but they don't talk to the other side of the argument here in this country that wants us to put some laws in place to try to prevent more mass killings. Okay, instead they want to talk to the side that's all support of it. All right, and so as they do that, the perception is spreading out across the world about how the United States is a very dangerous nation. I mean, you get almost your chances of almost getting killed here is about the same as going to Jerusalem, as an American tourist, and standing there, and you might get shot there, just for being an American. Who knows? I mean, it's about the same, depending on where you are in this country. If you live in a big city, your chances are higher, but it's coming to a point now where it's not going to matter anymore if you're in a big city or not, because that shooting in Texas was in a small town, where they never had anything like that. But boy, when it happened, okay? And that's what people in this country are trying to say. Why wait until the big thing before you get off your ass and do something? Why do we have to wait until the big thing? What's the big thing going to be? What is that going to look like? And if it happens, are we going to be satisfied that it happened because it pushed us to do something, or are we going to regret that for the rest of this country's life, that we allowed all these people to get killed, and it was only then, after all these people died, after 2 decades of unrest, that all these people had to die before we finally did something about it. What's that going to say about our country? That we're really more barbaric than we want the rest of the world to see. I think that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, we're trying to hide from the rest of the world just how animalistic we are in this country, that we're not really a civilized nation. We like to say we are. We like to pride ourselves around the fact that we have a constitution, we got a White House, we got all this stuff. But you take a microscope and you look deeper into that area, and you're going to find there's a lot of uncivil behavior inside that sphere, okay? And it's all just shrouded in this really noble-looking area. But underneath, it's just scum and villainy, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would call it. And that's all that's there. And because we're led by scum and villainy, our society is going to reflect that. And so that's what I'm saying. That's why nothing is going to get done. No matter how many innocent little kids are killed in schools across this country, nothing's going to get done. And like I said, the only way something would get done is if some very important person from another country comes over here, all right, and in some stupid freak of luck, they get themselves in the crossfire of a mass shooting and are shot and killed, dead. I mean, imagine if it was the Pope that come over here and that happened to him. Do you think that would be enough of a reason to get out there and do something about this shit or not? How's the NRA going to stop that? How are they going to come out against defending the right to kill your Pope? They're supposed to be Christian, right? I don't know, people. I really don't know. But, I feel like when we start to get angry and stuff like that, when we think we finally had the last straw, no, we haven't had the last straw. This is not the last straw. And people are starting to realize that now, that it doesn't matter how many kids are killed in school. It doesn't matter how unsafe the environment is. As long as the guns are there, as long as they can get their hands on the guns, people can't kill people unless they're armed. Okay, that's a simple thing. Okay, it's very hard to kill somebody with your fist unless you're some kind of a trained killer, or something like that. Most people aren't, so they're going to go for a weapon of any kind. All right, so it doesn't matter if the guy's holding a gun or a knife. I mean, people can't kill people unless they're armed. And if you arm the public in the state of mind that it's in today, why put people in prison? Why not give them guns? Okay? Why do we lock people up for crime? I mean, you're basically saying, yeah, it's okay, go, have fun, kill yourselves out there, we don't care. That's what you're saying. In other words, the law book and all that, you can just chuck that right in the garbage. That don't mean nothing. The cops, hey, they're there to have fun too. They're going to do the same damn thing to you. So why do we even bother with laws and shit like that if we're not even going to try and stop problems before they start? Why have fire escapes? Why have fire extinguishers? Why bother making fire alarms? Okay, people set their house on fire, fuck them. The fire department's not going to answer your call. Burn alive for all we care. We don't care. Ain't that the same thing? Driving? No, we don't. You don't need no stop sign, no speed limits, and no, the hell with that. You guys drive the hell the way you want out there. That's what you want. You get a car, you can drive it any way you want. So what if it looks like Mad Max out on the fucking street? That's your problem. You guys want to drive that way? That's your problem. That's your business. That's what we're getting. That's what we're getting for a message here from the government. It doesn't matter how many people have guns. They're going to do what they want with them. You can't stop it, so the hell with it. We're not going to try to stop it. We're just going to give them more guns, and maybe they'll kill each other off, and then there'll be less people to kill, and then gun violence will go down by default. That's the way they think about it. All right, so enough for today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. please keep your ears open for local COVID-19 news. The problem's still out there. And, you know, subscribe and comment. I'd like to hear from some of you viewers out there about, you know, things I'm talking about, to get your side of things, how you see things. So take care, everybody, and have a great summer.